friends. Welcome to 2024. You're going to be putting that wrong on everything you date for the next couple weeks. This is Nobody Asked Us with Des and Kara Goucher, presented by TCS. It's formal for the start of the year because it's a fresh start. Welcome, Kara Goucher.
Woo! 2024. That was a great intro. I felt that energy. The new leaf, new us. Just kidding. But yeah,
love it.
It's great.
I'm excited. This is I don't know. We have just so much to talk about. It's a fresh start, clean slate, but also we're on the 27th episode, so we're also like we're into this thing. We're going. We got people say chemistry is what they say. We're on 28. I'm sorry, first error.
That's so on brand for us.
We've lost count. It's just been so crazy. We've lost count.
Yeah, the last episode, people liked our laughing.
Yeah,
I got confidence that we have good laughs.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that this would have turned out this way and been I honestly I feel like our best episodes are like the least planned.
Right.
Which I think you're gonna be like, oh, so today will be great because you're like, we haven't talked about what we're gonna talk about really. But to be honest,
you shot me one text with an idea. Oh my gosh, everybody look at that. So she shot me one text and I wrote, I love that idea. Love, love, love. And then we never talked about it again, but you made notes today.
I did. And then I'm just going to fire away. And the good news is like we can go on a tangent because you don't even know if we're going off script. And if I don't like it, I'll just put us back on the path.
Okay,
perfect.
Like
that? I like them.
I love it.
Okay, so it's I like that too. So it's the new year. I think we've talked about resolutions before, and we did a whole episode when we just started out. But do you have any resolutions for the year? Do you have anything you're thinking about? Any goals that you want to put out there? Or are you like, nah?
Yeah, I'm not. I think we've talked about this, but it was a year ago, so maybe we have some new listeners. I'm not really a resolutions person. I'm kind of like if I want to change something or if I want to start doing something, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to wait for like the moment, but I think that's great if people do. I think it's funny when people are like, stay up till midnight and celebrate. And then the next day they're like, it's new, even though they already were there for the beginning of the new year.
That's fair.
But whatever. I mean, I have some things that I would like to go better. I'd like my running to be more consistent in 2024. And, you know, there's some other things that I hope are going to happen in 2024 that hopefully will work out. But in general, I'm not a big New Year's resolution
Same old. Just flipping the page and carrying on. Keep calm and carry on.
New logbook, new calendar, but that's about it. Yeah.
Can I tell you mine?
Yeah.
I do have a resolution. So I buy a lot of shit. Like just
like
stuff.
What?
Like
giant hairbrushes and water bottles.
Huge hairbrushes. This jacket's looking pretty big. I was going to come on and put like my face right here. Because I think it's a perspective thing. And just be like, geez, my head look huge today.
It doesn't though. You just like big things.
No. It's just the camera. But big things, big goals, big energy. There's a song about that.
Yeah.
But I buy too much shit. Like a lot of big things, a lot of small things.
No, like what though? People want to know, including me.
I buy a lot of clothes that I don't need. I'm like, oh, this will be sick. I love these shoes. And then I could wear them once and they're like way too expensive. Or like a sweatshirt. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I'm never dressed up. So it's all like dumb stuff. But I'm like, oh, I just want it. And I'm also like, I bust my ass. Like I work really hard and I'm doing all these events and these things. And I'm like, I'm buying it. I don't care. I've like, what's the point of doing all this stuff if I don't buy what I want?
Yeah.
But I have so much stuff and our place here is small. This is basically a storage room. It's a spare room, but there's just stuff all around me because I buy too much stuff. So I'm going to try to go all year without buying any new clothes. So if you see me wearing the same thing a lot this year, it's because I'm not buying new stuff. But I did in December. I was like, I made this up. I was like, next year I'm not going to buy anything. So I'm going to stock up now. So we'll see how long it lasts. But I got a bunch of cool shit in December in preparation for this idea. But I'm really going to try to stick to it because I just have I hate the amount of stuff I have. There's too much of it.
Yeah. Well, that's good. That's basically a resolution.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But I mean, like I'm not going to, because if we're hanging out and you're like, I really like that sweatshirt, I'm going to be like, buy it. Just get it.
I'd be
like, can afford it.
You get it for me and then I'll Venmo you.
Okay. Perfect.
Loophole.
Perfection.
Oh,
Okay.
jeez. I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna be like, do I real I maybe that's it. Like, I probably will buy some
Yeah.
stuff,
Like,
but I
do I
wanna be
really, really want it?
really intentional. Like, what purpose does this serve? Like, where am I going to wear it? What am I gonna do with it when I'm done? What's the packaging like? How's that contributing to environmental destruction? There's just so many things.
So many things.
So many things. So
Okay.
that's my goal for the year.
That's good. Solid.
I wanted to put it out in the universe because I do believe if you say it, then you're more likely to, stick to it. I don't think
I mean, I
anyone's going to
think I
check in
think
on
there's a
me.
lot of people that could be, myself included, intentional with things that we buy, right? I think it's easy, like easy access to everything. And I'm like a huge purger. I will like go in my son's room and like purge stuff for him. And I'll do it for Adam. And it's only once has he ever realized it. And it's because I threw out his freaking painting clothes. He's like, "Where are my painting clothes?" I was like, "What?"
Those are
Threw
what
those
you
out like
need.
3 years ago. Yeah. Um, but there's nothing that hurts me more than when I like see something that's never been worn.
Like tags on it.
Yes. And I'm
Oh,
just like, oh my
stinky.
God, that was so wasteful. So I totally feel what you're saying. Not saying that you don't wear your stuff, but we do live, like it's easy to get stuff, right? You're
Mhm.
like, yeah, I might use that. I might wear that or whatever. And so um, maybe my resolution should be to not purge my family members' things without asking, but I know I'm going to do it
Yeah,
anyway. So
I think that's
whatever.
totally like, and if they don't notice, I want someone to do that for me because, like, I have piles and I just need a bag. I'm just gonna be like, I'm wearing these 3 pairs of jeans that I just bought in December and these 3
Honestly, that would be
t-shirts.
my pleasure. I love purging
Right.
for people. I go to help my mom do it. I'm really into it. So
Okay. All
I'll
right.
come to
Well,
Michigan to help you out.
we'll chat about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Love that. Great. We're setting up plans for the year. We're gonna get that on the schedule. Anything else you're excited about just early on? I have a topic in mind. We could jump right in, but usually we catch up a little bit.
I know. Well, holidays. I am excited that you and I are going to do more live events this year,
I saw
right?
that the Boston tickets were up.
Yes. Yes. I didn't even
Wow.
know about it. I actually got an email like yesterday where he's like, I'll send you a link when the tickets are ready. I'm like, people are already buying them. So we're going to be doing
Surprise.
Friday night before the Boston Marathon, right?
That'd be fun.
Is it the W? No, I'm
BUR.
going to BUR. Yeah.
City
Studio, the
space.
city space. We're going to do
It's an
something
awesome
there.
space.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Really cool.
super fun. I'm excited and like it's always fun to hang out with you and have people around.
I want
Ish.
I think we have like I think there's a video screen in there. I think we should get some type of image or like videos that we can play and critique.
Oh.
Something dramatic with the video. Maybe we can get like the red pen where we can analyze some stuff.
Yes, that'd be
That'd be
amazing.
amazing.
See, the mistake was here.
Right.
Let me circle it for you.
And then you can show me swiping my credit card like this is off
This
the
was the
fucking
mistake. She did not need this sweatshirt.
sweatshirt.
Okay,
So
I'm in.
that I want that, and then okay, here's the other thing I want for us. I really want this for us, and you can veto it. But like my friend Katie Hoff just started a podcast with another swimmer, and it's called I think it's Uncharted Waters. I think that's what it's called, something like that. Unfiltered Waters, maybe murky.
Okay.
But they have a lighted sign that says it, it lights up. It's like the thing, and I want that for my background. Like it would look
I do
real
too.
weird back there. Like it would be like kind of on an angle and like the nicest thing in this room, but it
Yeah.
would say like,
I want that too because my desk is cute and fun and we always look at Adam. So I just want to have something I can slide in behind me when we record.
yeah. So those are my goals for the pod. Pretty low
Okay.
bar, I
Big
think.
goals. Big goals. We're going places.
Yeah, one step at a time. Listeners got them. Maybe a new camera. I got
Oh,
suggestions
and
for my camera recently.
yeah, I'm finally gonna get a new computer this year, I think too.
I
I've
like
needed
that.
one for about 2 years.
Well,
But
go ahead.
oh no. What do you have a comment on my computer?
I do. I was gonna say when we get the official nobody asked us company up and running,
Oh, right, right. Then it'll be a write-off, right?
take it out of the account, baby.
Okay, one thing I was gonna say is that we have talked about merch,
Yeah.
just us, and people are asking for it. So I think that's something that's gonna come to life for us in 2024. That's something I want us to bring to life in 2024.
I think that will be really fun. I'm excited to see us fight over designs. Like, I think this is cool. I'm like, I don't know.
That might be our first real fight
Yeah.
over merch.
I
And then we'll
guess we're
talk about
having
it on
2
the pod.
t-shirts. Do we need 2 t-shirts? Seems like a lot. Seems like excess.
It's going to be
Um,
great.
yeah, looking forward
Yeah.
to that. Merch
All
will be
right.
cool. I think that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So live events, we I took us off the rails there. Anything else? That's gonna be great. Do we have any I think I don't know if we'll have a trials one. We do need to talk off show
Yeah.
about some things
I think
maybe
that
in
that
the
might
works.
be working out. I don't know if, well, yeah, we'll talk later.
Yeah. Stay
Yeah.
tuned. Stay tuned, folks. We're getting organized.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good I mean, coming up really quickly is the Olympic trials, and let's just dive into that because I think we've vented about all the stuff around the trials, the times and the organizations and all the things. It doesn't matter. They're happening February 3rd.
Third. You should know you're running, but yes, February
I should
3rd.
know that. February 3rd. The Pro Bowl is February 4th. So if you're a football fan, you could get down there and double dip in Orlando. But on the 3rd, the Olympic trials will happen. And I'm excited to talk about all things Olympic trials, experiences we've had, why they're different than any other race. And then I want to really get in to the players, who's in
Okay.
there and what they're about. Like, let's just make people care about the race. I think if somebody gets excited about the racing after they listen to this, success.
I
Jump
love
over.
it. And I want to say that Des really came up with this because Des was noticing and pointing out to me, and then it's all I can see, that a lot of the media coverage has been with a little bit of a negative twinge. And this is like the greatest marathon possible every 4 years. And so let's start talking about why it's so cool and what might happen and how great it's going to be. Because it's like there won't be a race this great until another 4 years from now. Right?
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
look, here's the thing. If you don't quite understand Olympic trials, what they're about, what they mean, and you just want like a nugget to see if this might be something you want to watch. Like you like running, but this is a long race. Go Google Kim Conley, Julia Lucas, 5,000 meters. What year was that? 2012 women's
Was it
Olympic
12?
trials.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so because
It
Julie
was.
Colley won that one. Go watch that race, and you'll just like you see dreams being made and hearts being broken, trajectory of life being changed. Like it's so dramatic. One race kind of sums it up, and that is the pinnacle. But you're going to see that in Orlando, and you can get out there and watch it, and it's why they're the best.
Totally. Yeah.
Do
Well,
you,
let's get into it. What's your first question?
what's your first question? I'm just going to repeat stuff because I'm buying time. All right. Well, let's. Do you want to talk about the athletes, or do you want to talk about the trials themselves and why they're just so different? Like
No, I think we should
how?
talk about, like, we can talk about the track trials as track gets closer, but I think we should
Yeah.
specifically talk about the marathon trials. Like, I've been in 2 marathon trials. You've been in 3, right? Or this will be your fourth,
Well, 5.
fifth. This is going to be your fifth marathon trials. Yeah.
Yeah.
8,
Yeah.
12, 16, 20, 24. So this is, yeah, that's wild. Yeah.
Sarah
Okay.
Sarah Hall has done 8. I got that on my phone the other day. This will be Sarah Hall's 8th trials, not just
Right, but just
marathon.
marathon trials, right? Like I did 3 track trials, you did 1 or 2, but just marathon trials. I've only done 2 still, but you've done this is gonna be your 5th.
This will be
So
5.
this I think we should dive into track as track gets closer, but I think we should really focus on just the marathon and just how important this day is and what it's like leading up to it and all that good stuff.
All
But
right.
you're in charge, so you tell me.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that's great. That's kind of what I wanted to hit on because like we do world marathon majors, you could run Boston, you can run Chicago. They come every year and like the preparation's really similar. I think first and foremost, like learning the new course is always interesting. Like Orlando had a day where they were allowing runners to come out and preview, get on the loop. It's the only time that the road was going to be closed. So this is like a race where typically you would get on the course and know what you're in for. A lot of folks are not going to have that luxury, or they're just going to have to like run the sidewalks. Did you ever get out and do course tours for trials? Why or why not?
I did not for Houston.
Mhm.
Probably because I was like switching coaches and had a stress fracture. And it like that was like the most pressure I've ever been under as far as trying to make magic happen. And then, but I did for LA. I went and you remember that course though, it was like on the street. So it was sidewalk running, but it at least gave me an idea of what it was going to look like. Like at least had like a picture in my mind of where the long stretches were. There were all those turns through the college that I was able to actually do those. But yeah, so I did go and prep that one. What about you? You were with Hanson's for so long. I feel like they're big time like preppers,
Yeah,
course
they
preppers.
on the course, we did a lot of miles on it. One thing that's different about trials, and I think the games will be this way too, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. It's a criterium course, so we'll do multiple loops on the course, which is great for spectators because you can see a bunch of different places, or you could just stay on one spot and they're going to pass by. Athletes will pass by a couple of times. So in LA and Houston as well, we could go out and run. It was like a 6 mile loop, so you could do a lot of loops on it, and we did, which was great. And then you would know it really well, or you get an idea of what it's going to be. But on race day, like how much did you feel like that helped? Are you a visualizer? Like, did you place yourself out there, and then did that mental picture match like what you
Yeah,
remembered?
not exactly what I thought it was
Yeah.
going to go down, right? Like I like well, leading into Houston, I had no idea what would happen, and I'll never forget at the press conference right after, we had a really slow first mile and I was so relieved in the race. I was like, "Oh good, I'm like warming up." And you were like, "Yeah, it was a great little warm up." Do you remember that?
No, but that
It was
sounds right.
really funny.
What are we doing?
But Houston, I hadn't seen the course, so had no idea what to think or what it was going to be like. I just was told there was a lot of concrete, so I was like trying to do my second runs more on the roads rather than soft surface because the coach I had before would only wanted me to run on soft surface. And then for LA, I had gone and seen it, and so I just felt like it helped me know where I was in the rhythm of the race. It didn't I don't think it was like this giant advantage, but I think just the calmness of like not catching me off guard. Like we had some pretty wild turns in that
Hmm.
on that course and I was prepared for it. It was kind of like the Olympics in London.
London.
That course was so wild and Shalane and I went for a couple days and ran it multiple times and when the Olympics were happening, people were like, "What?" As we were like making these crazy turns. And I was like, yeah, I know what to expect. So I think if you can get to it, obviously it helps. But in Houston, I didn't see it at all and it worked out okay.
Yeah, I think one thing about like the multiple laps is, and this was kind of my logic, not going to see the Orlando one. One, I was at a football game that I bought tickets for in July, so
Yeah.
just like priorities at this point in my life, I'm going to watch the football game, which was a mistake. Did it anyways, but also knowing what I know, you kind of learn the course as you go. Like one, you could
Hmm.
see it ahead of time, and then when you get out there, you're still like, oh, this feels different because the environment's different. You have people around you. You're in the middle of the road, like where the crowds are and things like that. Like just they really change it, like how it feels and how it's run a little bit, just like the energy levels and stuff. And then also like when you're doing the like you can learn it in the first lap, and then the second
Yeah.
lap you're like, okay, like if you're paying attention, if that's something that's important, like you can put it in the memory bank really quick, and then the next lap you're like, all right, I'm good, I know what to expect and I'm ready for this. So that's my logic for not going this time, and I'm gonna stick with it.
Well, you have a lot of experience too.
Yeah, I've done a few of these. So, with the trials, it's obviously a survive in advance scenario. How do you feel like that was different in terms of preparation? Any changes there? And then also like race strategy. It obviously makes an impact there. Like, what was your experience with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think like in Houston, well, actually, Houston and LA unfolded kind of similarly in some ways, but it was like just don't make any mistakes. Just stay with the lead pack. Don't feel like you have to make a breakaway. I wasn't very fit. Like I had a stress fracture in the neck of my femur, and so I literally started my first day running was 12 weeks to the day of the Olympic trials. And my first day I went to practice, Shalane was doing a 20-mile run, and I made it 8 miles of the 20-mile run. And so I knew I wasn't in as good a shape as everybody else, and I really couldn't make any mistakes. And so for me, it was like, you're not here to win this. You are here to run the smartest race possible and land in that top three. And even in that race, it came down to four of us. And when it finally, I took a risk on myself, like maybe it was you that pushed a little bit. Like Amy Hastings was going, or Amy Craig was going up and back and up and back. And she had kind of done a push and then she kind of came back. And then I feel like you pushed a little. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong. And I knew I was on the rails. I knew it, but I felt like she was about to fold. And so I was just like, I'm just going to ride this out for a mile to 2 miles and then back off. And it worked. Like I got enough of a cushion, and then I did let you and Shalane go because I knew I was redlining. I remember my coach at the time, Jerry Schumacher, was like, "You can catch him," and I yelled at him, "No," because I was like, I just need to maintain this position. Like
Yeah.
it's so different. Like at a Boston or New York, I'd be like willing to risk. Like I'm gonna go. I could maybe win this. I got to go, but I was like, no, I need to just like protect this position and make sure because it's the same ticket overseas,
Mhm.
right? Um, and I wasn't in a position where I had the fitness to really win anyway. So I was just like very focused on just being in that top three. And it didn't matter if it was first, second, or third.
Yeah, that's the win. Like that, it's the only time. Well, yeah, it's the only time where there are three spots that are the winner.
Yeah.
And like whatever podium at the games, but you're very aware of the color of the medal. Um, at the trials, but it's also like this is just the rounds to get to the final.
Yeah.
And that actually was me that made the push. I'm pretty sure because it's usually in these races you're like racing for the win, or then there's another kind of race within the race where it's like top American, but that's not
Mm-hmm.
really like the front or top of mind. It's just sort of like something that is a carrot. If you see yourself, the win disappears, like, okay, I'm like top American here, let's see how high I can finish. But we rarely race as Americans where it's just US
Yeah.
championship style with the best. And it was like I had seen enough of you run in other races, or like, like watched, and you're studying, but you don't necessarily line up. I think it was my first time racing Amy in the marathon. Might have been her second marathon, but it was like, I know when she's on the ropes, like she goes to the front and tries to push, like break it open, goes to the front, tries to break it open. And like those little surges are, to me, it was like telltale. I'm like, okay, she's right about to quit. And if I don't let her go to the front, we'll be down to three. And
Yeah.
it's almost like it's so hard because it's like usually in these races you're rooting for the Americans and you want them to have that like moment, and you're seeing those moves and you're like, no, Amy, don't start doing that. Like just stay calm. And then the flip switches, and it's like at the trials, I know exactly what this means and I know how to take advantage of it, which is just very, very different.
It is different. I mean, fast forward 4 years, it was the same four people. And I thought that the trials were going to be really different. I thought it was going to be like a fast, aggressive 225-ish or under race. But then the weather was so hot that I anyway rearranged my racing plan. I was like, it's too hot. People that try to run super fast are going to tire out. And so it didn't develop the way I thought it would. Like Amy and Shalane went for it and pulled ahead. And then with a lap to go, maybe with 8 miles to go, it was like you and me. And I remember thinking, fuck, because I was like, I'd rather be against anyone right now than Des Linden because I've just seen you close marathons so well. And I remember passing my coach Heather Burrows, and she's like, "It's okay, you can run with her," because we had all discussed like you were the person I didn't want to be next to in the final 6 miles of the race. And it's just what you're saying. It's like I'd learned that from watching you race so many times. I was like, give me anybody else right now, and I'm making that team. But fuck, it's Des Linden. I'm not making this team. And you pressed, and I knew I was already like kind of on the edge. And I was like, if I go with her now, I might blow up. But maybe if I like just maintain where I am right now, I'll be able to surge in the last final miles. But you were gone. So thanks.
No,
You were a soul crusher.
that was stressful because it is the competitors, and for me it was like, this is the toughest person who I think wants it the most. Like, like you're in position where one of us is going to make it. That's what we're thinking. You're not thinking about what's going on up front. But if you're up
Mhm.
front and you're fading, you're like, okay, I just got to hold on. I just got to hold on. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's a different scenario than like I have to crush the girl next to me right now to make this spot. But I
Yeah.
do think in hindsight, had we like if you had been there, I think we probably would have had taken turns at the front trying to break each other, and I think we would have got both caught Shalane.
I think so too. I mean, it's like it would have been a sucky way for me to make the team by beating Shalane like that. But I just didn't have any information, right? If I
Yeah,
had known, I probably would have risked it and gone with you, and been like, "Look, I'm in fourth. This gives me the best chance of perhaps catching her." But I didn't know. It wasn't until
yeah,
like 2 miles to go where Adam was like, "Shalane is fading. She's fading," but I just ran out of room, right? Yeah. Anyway, I do feel
yeah.
like that sometimes too, but that's part
And
of it.
there was a lot like, there were a lot of people out there, but they were like, the road was so wide, and then it
Yes.
was like some of those stretches were just so hot that people were like, we're all gonna gather under this bridge in the
Yeah.
shade."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, the information was, like, spotty, you know?
Yeah. I know there was that little like turn towards the end and I saw her and I was like, "Oh my god, she is right there." Um, but at that point, I didn't deserve to go anyway. Like she had done what it took to get there and I didn't. I had taken a risk that I'd be able to close it out and I wasn't able to. And so, like, again, like you make these calculated risks during the race based on what you know of people, based on what you think is going to happen. And it's not that I ran bad. I'm proud of that race, but
Oh,
it
yeah.
was a miscalculation looking back. Like I should have pushed a little bit harder with 6 miles to go. I should have risked a little bit more because it would have changed my life probably. But anyway, we're still
Yeah.
friends.
Well, and it's also the thing too, like, it could I mean, I think I've said the same thing after 2020. I was like, I just had this moment where I was like, well, I've prepared for not making the team because this is the first time I've come into a trials where I wasn't super like overly confident that I was going to make it. I didn't feel like it was my spot to lose, and I had this moment of doubt in the course where I was like, it's okay. Like, this will be okay if I don't make it. It's fine. And then I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, I need to like keep racing. And I think about that moment a lot. It's like, well, did I lose it right there? Like that little lapse of judgment. But then also like maybe you're all in and then you finish 7th or 15th
Right.
or something,
Right.
So it's like yes and no. We never really
Yeah.
know. But you ran really tough that day. And I thought I ran fairly tough in 2020. So it
You ran
happened.
great. I know. I think maybe, I mean, you have a list of things, but like we should talk about like the difference in the feelings of, like third in 2012, I was crying before I even finished. I was so relieved. I felt like everyone's like, "Are you happy?" And I was like, "I'm not even happy. I'm just so relieved that I survived
Yeah.
this." Like I knew how bad I wanted it. But like, things didn't go well in the lead up. I was like injured and switching coaches and I was training with Shalane, who was like so incredibly fit and there was so much doubt and so much anxiety over it. And like my sponsor was like mad at me for switching coaches so close. There was just like so much going on. And remember we made like a left-hand turn, you had like 200 to go. And
Hmm.
that's like probably my favorite running memory is that I saw the finish line and I knew it was going to happen. Yeah, yeah. I put my hand like
Like,
I took
yeah.
it like literally took my breath away. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like someone captured it, took a picture of it. And it was like seriously one of the most happiest ones. But it wasn't even like bliss. It was more just like this relief of like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I wanted this so bad. And then contrast that with 2016 where I did not want to finish. I was like,
Mm.
I want to drop out. I can't because that race had given me so much hope. It had helped me get away from where I had been. And it had helped me start this new life that I was really proud of. Just that race, right? And I was like, this is about to be over and it's over. It's not like, and now it continues at the Olympics. It's like, it's over,
Hard stop. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was like the same thing. I like was emotional before I even hit the finish line, but complete opposite feeling. And I mean, you came over to me. You were the first and like really only person that came over to me. Do you remember that?
Mhm.
And you were just so nice and it was like you were so happy. Obviously you should be. You just got second place again at the Olympic trials and you're going back to your second games, but that always stands out to me as like a moment where you took a moment to like check in on me, and I really appreciate it.
That shit's hard. Like,
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, you just have, like, you know how hard people are working, you know what goes into it, you know the stress levels, you know, like, financially what's on the line. Like, there's, it's why the trials are so great, and all of that is out there, and then, 3 people make it, and then the one person who, I mean, and a bunch of people are left out, right? Like, it's not any easier for 6th or 10th,
Right, right.
but, like, you do have that, like, I was so close. And it's just, man, like, that's I don't I'm trying to think I'm trying to think if anybody came over to me after 2020. I don't think so.
They
I
let
don't
you be
remember.
alone?
I
Yeah,
I'm
tell us about, like, 2012 was my first marathon team, but my second Olympic team. So, but 2012 was your first Olympic team. It's your second trials. But tell us the difference in your feeling. And honestly, I picked this up in your book because you barely talked about 2016 in your book, but tell us the difference in the feeling that you felt when you finished in 2012, 2016, and 2020.
12 is awesome. Like, I felt like I needed to do that, and I that was like it was good. In my mind, I could not picture not making the team. Like, I would have been absolutely, like, just blown away. Like, I don't know how to manage the rest of my life because this is like this was done, right, in 12. And then in 16, like, I just had the awareness of how hard it is, and, like, how special it is, and, like, to get to repeat that and all of those things, made it a lot more stressful, like, just the knowledge of it. And so I would say 16 was like relief. Like, I've done this, I've earned my way back, like, I didn't expect to be here. That's probably one of my most proud moments in running, because it was just like, it's rare to get a second chance, and,
Yeah.
like, I earned a second chance. And then 20, was super conflicted because I had the moment of doubt, and I never pictured myself on that team, and then I finished and I was like, oh, I was, like, really close. Like, I probably should have given myself a chance, and I was pissed at myself for not believing in myself. But I also ran a lot of the late race behind Laura Thweet. So I was in 5th or even 6th, and passed a couple people, but, like, I remember coming down, there was, like, a long downhill and then a long straightaway to the finish, and being like, "I have to beat Laura because I don't want her to be 4th." Like, like, it was not like I'm trying to beat every person that I can. It was just like 4th fucking sucks. And, like, I'd rather have her be 5th and be like, well, I was close, but then there was this other person, and then there was 3rd, Like, I almost
Right.
felt like I was, like, protecting her, like, no, no, you don't want to be here. Like, trust me. Um, and even that, it's like, I wasn't really thinking about, like, oh, I'm so close to 3rd. So I think I
Right.
was pretty comfortable with it until we got shuffled into drug testing, and it was like, everyone who made the team, and then the 2 alternates on the men's and the women's side, and we're all stuffed in a room, and there's people who are having, like, the happiest moment of their life. They just accomplished, like, this massive dream, and you're so happy for them. And then you're like, oh, I realize, like, I this really paints a picture of what I just missed. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be that happy. So
Right.
I cried a lot during drug testing. Like, it didn't hit me until we were in there, and, like, it was like these tiny room with all these emotions, and I was like, this fucking sucks.
And the extreme highs and lows, right? Like the
Yeah.
total opposite of elation, and then it's setting in of like, oh my God, I was so close and I'm not going.
Yeah.
I know. I felt so bad for you. I was like, girl, that was awful.
I
I
was like,
mean,
I
yeah.
have Boston, and then Boston got canceled. And then I was an alternate for a year and a half.
Yeah, I know. I know that was the longest thing to be an alternate for. And like, there was like a chance you could be on that team, right? Like, Alphine had a baby. Like, there's a chance that she wouldn't be ready to go. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. When were you like, yeah, no, I'm not going? I mean,
Super late, because it was like, I don't know, someone could get fucking COVID, right? Like,
right,
I can't
right.
can't
Yeah.
get on the plane, right?
Right.
But, like, they nor like, this is the saddest thing I own, but it's the credential stuff, like, they put it all together for you. They send an alternate one, but it's just never, like, stamped into the, like, lamination or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like I had that. It's like, oh, like I might get the call and I might like have to go, and it's like the
Oh my
saddest little.
gosh, that is so sad. I know
uh,
people don't understand the alternate doesn't go. So
no.
like when I was the alternate in 2016, people kept going, "Well, you still get to go, right?" And I was like, "No, that's actually not how it works. Like I'll be watching it at home like that." Like so many people thought I still got to go. And I'm like, "No, no, I'm just watching it
Hanging out at
at
home.
home."
Yeah,
Ah. Yeah,
brutal.
it is brutal.
So the emotions are crazy. The stakes are super high. It's just different. It's different, like because three spots are significant.
Mhm.
And you can get into a place where you're like, hey, we've got three people here. Let's like work together. Or you can have a group of five, and it's like we have to slice each other's throats.
Right.
Like so.
Right.
It's like it's a totally crazy race. Everyone should go watch it. And I think we should talk about who's in it. Like, who should we be watching for? What should we be excited about? Have you done? Have you thought about this at all for NBC? Because you're going to
Not
call
Not as much for NBC as just for my own, like trying to prep myself for what I think might happen, which is a mistake because it never happens that way. But
it.
I think the thing that's really interesting, especially on the women's side, is that we have so many good women, but with different skill sets.
Hmm.
You know, we have like hardcore sub 220 from the gun, just hitting it people. And we have people who are a little bit more, then we have people who are a little bit more strategic and maybe a little bit more like strength based runners. And it's like seeing all of the runners mesh together is fascinating for me as like a fan now of like, what does that look like when there is no rabbit, the course isn't flat, there are challenges, you have to read each other. Does the fact that you're so much faster than everyone else pay off anyway? Or does it open the door for someone who's slower, but who can really read things? And that's what I feel like. I feel like we have some really heavy hitters that are amazing, just go and grind athletes. But we also have some really good athletes that are really good at technical championship style stuff. And yeah, it's just like what's going to be better on that day. We have no idea, but we do have like thoroughbreds versus workhorses is kind of how I think of it.
I
And I
like that.
consider myself a workhorse, so it's not an insult, you know?
Yeah. I immediately was like, yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think talent versus work is hard. um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I agree. There's a handful of women up front. You have Emily Sisson, American record
Current
holder,
American holder. Yeah.
Kira D'Amato,
The last
um,
American record holder and holder in the half.
yep, um, Betsy Sena, Sarah
Mhm.
Hall.
Mhm.
Uh, there's a lot of question marks too. Emma Bates has been
Mhm.
pretty fast, but now you're starting to flirt with the 222, and I think there's a big break there. Like I think that's like the five or six women that are just like, okay, they have the chops to just go run really fast, but who's done it without the pacer?
Mhm.
Which was something that Emily Sisson was really trying to do in Chicago. Like she talked about that and was like, Ray doesn't necessarily want me to have a pacer because I need to get experience with this. And she was with Matt Lano for most of the time. I think he did ultimately pace through the end. I could be wrong. Um, and she just didn't look quite as good as she did. I mean, obviously time wise, she wasn't quite as good as when she ran that 218. So does that ding her confidence? Does that say something about fitness? Was it more about the weather? Uh, and then how does that change your strategy?
Yeah, well, strategy is huge, right? Like that's where I think people who are used to running in packs and who are used to like reading things, I don't want to say anyone has an advantage at the trials cuz it's just a pressure cooker, but people who can be a little bit calmer being in the back and not feeling like they need to push and not feeling like they need to be controlling things. I do sometimes feel like they have a little bit of an advantage just because it's a race where people have to continually evaluate each other. I mean, who knows? Maybe Emily Sisson or Kira D'Amato is just going to take it and be like, you know what? I can run 217. You guys can't. Let's just go. Like maybe, maybe someone does do something like that. But historically, we see a little bit of a slower burn in the beginning. And then we see, people really having to read, and the people who are more comfortable saying, hey, and this isn't to say that Emily and Kira aren't comfortable sitting in packs, by the way. The people who can say, hey, I'm comfortable being here. I'm comfortable being around people. It's 26.2 miles. It's not 5 miles. I feel like if you have that mindset, and certainly if you've had that experience behind you, I think that is a little bit of an advantage heading into a race like that. Do you think so?
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, I think it's a hurry up and wait race. That's what it will be. I was shocked about how much leading Laura Thweet did in Atlanta, and I thought that was kind of like we kind of joked about it afterwards. I think she thought I was like criticizing her, like, why on earth would you do that? I was like, literally just like, wow, like what was the logic there? I just am curious. And she's like, I just thought it was my best chance. So there's going to be somebody who, kind of thinks of it that way. Will they
Mm-hmm.
be like a 220 person? I don't think so. I think that those folks that have that speed are like, well, I could sit in on any pace and be the fastest half marathoner. There's no incentive for them to go to the front. But I also think back to the 2008 Olympic trials where Magdalena Louis was like, I'm in 227 shape and I don't care what anyone else does. Like the first 2 miles are slow and she was like, boom, peace. Like she
Mm-hmm.
had a 2.5 minute lead or something at the halfway point. And she made the team. I mean,
But
Dina
you
is
never know, right? She
right.
beat Dina that year, I think.
She
Didn't she?
was second. Dina caught her like couple
Okay, she
miles
caught
to
her.
go.
But
Yeah.
4 years earlier, Blake Russell was way out in
Mhm.
front. And then I think that was the year that Colleen Duruck maybe won and Dina was second. And then Jen Rhines caught Blake
Yeah.
right in the final stages. And I only tell this story because it's such a horrible story and so painful. Blake made it in 2008.
Yeah.
But so she like really went and put it out there and then got gobbled up right at the end. Like she could see Jen making that Olympic team while she was there. So like those are risks, right? Like sometimes you're rewarded, like Magda making that team in '08, and sometimes it slips out of your hands. And so you really have to know yourself and what you're ready to do. And maybe that was Blake's best chance in '04 was to just go and rip it and see if anyone went with her and see if she could build a lead. But in 2008, she did run a very different marathon and she made that
Yeah.
team. So yeah, you got to, I don't know. It's like, that's part of what goes into when you're thinking about it and you're forming a strategy. I mean, if
Yeah.
you
I
went
do.
out there and took the lead, I would die. Like if you
Oh,
just went out and started hammering, I'd be like, what is
yeah.
happening?
Might do it. I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, and then like obviously there's the conversation of the weather, and that's going to be a huge factor. And I understand a lot of people, who maybe aren't super confident in conditions or like want to run like they think a fast route day is going to help them or increase their chance. Like, yeah, I would lobby for that too if that played to my strengths. Um, but if it's hot at noon, it's going to be hot at 10. And like, if the weather impacts the race, it's not going to go 218, I don't think.
No. No. Well, and 218, I mean, I don't know how fit our American women are. Obviously, we know Emily Sisson can run 218. She's done it. And I think she probably can run faster than she's run just based on her performances since she ran 218. But we're running a record or a time like that requires like things to go right, right? Like the weather is good, you have a pacer, you're able to remove some of the thinking. It's not to say she can't hammer 218 on her own, but now there's a lot of mental energy, checking splits, making sure she's staying on that pace, right? And that's energy that I personally wouldn't want to give up early in the race. Now, if that means I'm going to have a 4-minute lead, I'm like, sure, okay, I can spare some mental energy.
Take the
Right?
buffer.
But I don't see anyone running away early on from, I mean, I don't see Betsy letting anyone run away early on. I don't see Kira letting anyone. Bates, Sisson, who am I forgetting? Even Kellen Taylor. Like, I don't see any of those women like saying, if
Right.
anyone takes it, I don't see any of those women being like, yeah, okay, bye.
Yeah.
I think they're like, okay, let's go. Let's roll. Let's do this. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone does decide to go to the front and push like that. You're smiling like you're going to laugh. What?
Jane Nobody comes in. That's her
Yeah.
name. She's entered as Jane Nobody comes in and she's like, I'm running 219 pace. I know it's hot as hell. Do they let her go? I would let her go.
I would
Well,
let her go. I'd be
maybe
like, I don't
she's
know who you
ready.
are. I know
Yeah,
everyone in this race. Yeah, no,
right.
it's true, right? Like somebody, I remember the year you got second at Boston, Kim Smith like went for it
Yeah.
and everyone was like, see ya. And she, like, as we were
Still
starting to
went
head up the
07 and a
hills,
half. Yeah.
yeah, I was like, she's going to run away with this. Like, she might actually just run away with this. And then unfortunately, her calf went, but like, you never know. Like, people pull it off, right? By doing that.
Well, it's Meb, right? He
Yeah.
broke away. I was doing the coverage of New York this year on the motorcycle. I'm like, I fucking be racing right now. I put like a 4 minute gap on this crew and then just try to steal it, you know?
Yeah.
Like they were so unmotivated to do anything. Like, you could steal this race. Someone could steal it. You don't know.
Right. It could happen for sure. I think what's so interesting to me is that there's so many American women that have performed well at that world stage. Obviously, you've won Boston. Cara D'Amato's run 2:19. Emily Sisson has run 2:18. Emma Bates has placed high at Boston. Molly Seidel has an Olympic bronze medal. I know I'm forgetting other people. Alphine's placed really well in New York. Did Betsy just win a
Sydney.
marathon? It's
Sydney
in
Marathon.
Sydney. So we have all these women who have performed well at the highest level, and only three get to go. Right? It's
That
not like we have one person like back in the day when it was like, it's Dina and whoever, or you know what I mean? Like there's women that have already been to the big party and done really well.
I think that's going to be one of the coolest things is that you're going to get late in that women's race past mile 20 and there's going to be a very serious group of athletes. Maybe it'll blow up quickly when it does, but I think you're going to have, you could potentially have 10 to 15 women that are real threats that are, very likely to make the team and they have the standards and they're ready to go. And, I think Lindsay Flanagan's a name we don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about enough. And Sarah
Wait,
Vaughn ran
Sarah
2:23.
Vaughn, Sarah Hall. And
Yeah.
who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting her name and it's going to kill me. She won Grandma's this year in her debut marathon.
Lauren, not Paquette. Lauren.
Hagens or something?
Yes.
Yes. And then also Dakota Lindworm. So, and Gabby Rooker, who looks so good in Chicago. That's
Mm-hmm.
right. Like,
Annie Frisbee.
yeah, it's like not fun if you're one of them. But for me, I'm like, this is going to be an awesome race. Like, I
Nell
do see,
Rojas.
yes, you're right. If you really think about it, there's so many women that have run 2:25 or faster. And I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see if someone takes the lead. But in all reality, all of those women have a shot. Like, I think I think we think of this group of women right now. There's like a few that I think people are like Emily, Kira, Emma, like they have to make it. They're so good. And I mean, they should make it. They're amazing. But I think there's so many people right there, or Molly, obviously Olympic medal. There's so many people. It's not like they finish and then like, oh, well, 8 minutes later, there's a pack of pretty good women. It's like, no, they're right there. And their careers are on the up and up, right? Like they're not like topped out. So I don't know. It's just incredibly deep.
Yeah. And like I was doing a thing with Brooks and it was Erica Kemp and Susanna Sullivan, 2:23 marathoner or 2:23, 2:24. We're kind of chatting about it. It's like someone's going to make it that in their mind they've been picturing this for years. Like they know what the flag's going to look like when they hold it up. They know what it's going to feel like to cross the finish line, to hug their family, to book the fucking tickets. Like they've pictured this their entire life and they have this self-belief that
Mm-hmm.
it's going to happen and they're going to be like, wow, this surprise, like I can't believe it, how are you feeling right now, you must be shocked. And they're going to be like, no,
Right.
I've
I
I've known
agree.
this forever. And like that person's gonna make it and we're all gonna go like, holy shit. And they're gonna be like, yeah, no, I could have told you that like, 4 years ago.
Right.
So there's always like the chance that there's gonna be a surprise, and that surprise person's like not really a surprise. Not for
Right.
them. So that's so
Yeah.
exciting.
What do you think on the men's side?
I don't know. No, I think well, we know we have two spots 100%. I think the third on the ranking, this whole thing is crazy, but I think the third on the ranking is fairly certain. They just won't be able to officially name them. But there's enough guys that I think have run under the 2:11:20.
Yeah.
which is the B standard. Like it should be a really good race there. And I think that there's like 3 or 4 names that you're like, okay, this should be it, but it's the same thing. Like that next group is just really, really good, and it's constantly rotating on like,
Yeah.
oh, Matt McDonald's run well. Oh, Nico Montes has run well. Oh, Zach Panning's run well. Like they all run together. Like in Chicago in 2022, like the pack was together for like 21 miles, and then it blew open. And one guy has a good day, one guy struggles home, and then the next like that like Zach was 209, 20 something or whatever. Like, wow, that's a huge breakthrough. And next year, Clayton Young goes and like crushes it. And like any guy from that pack right there can have that breakthrough day. And you'll be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Of course.
I think I'm not worried about our men qualifying. I guess I should be, but I just feel like they're going to be fine. They're going to get through. They're going to do what they need
Yeah.
to do. I think the race itself will be very interesting. I mean, Connor Mance is who everyone's looking at to become the next Olympic trials marathon champion. How does he handle that pressure? Right. He's been in, like, we know we've seen him race in Chicago twice and in Boston. We know he goes for it. But it's different when you're chasing people, right? This is,
Mhm.
again, not a dig, just pointing out the difference in the way these races are. It's different when you're chasing these people around you and you're keying off these people around you versus like you are the guy that everyone
The
else is keying
guy.
off of, right? So I think that'll be super interesting to see how he handles that. Obviously, his training partner, Clayton, is running really well. You could never count Galen Rupp out. I mean, we're talking about Olympic trials. He's probably been in 50 between the track and the marathon.
He's won a
Um,
few.
yeah, and he's won, many in there. So, and that's just the top three that we are like, that's just the top three based on like time. But then there's so many people right there. So I don't know. I think, I mean, CJ Albertson is turning me into a fan with the like, he's running with the chicken coop lights on. He's sweating his ass off, right? Like, it's just like, talk about someone who wants it and who's like, I'm going to do what it takes to get myself ready. Like, I just think that's one of the beautiful things about the Olympic trials is that the way that we have it set up in the US is a window for people who there's a window if you're ready for it, right?
Yeah.
Like there are no guarantees. Like, sure, we can say Connor Mance is the favorite, but that doesn't mean that Connor Mance is going to cross the line first or even be in the top three. I mean, I hope he is. I feel like he deserves it. But if someone runs a better, smarter, faster race, then they deserve it, right? That day. So
I think,
yeah.
and this isn't a knock on Sisson, but I think it was all eyes on Sisson in Atlanta,
Yeah,
right?
it
Like she
was.
had a really great debut. She's the future. She's very fast. She's obviously great at the 10K, and it just shows you like what can happen. Like
Right.
it's racing, and when the moves were made, yeah, it just wasn't her day because it's one day, one race, winner
Right.
winner top three take all.
Yep.
And you just don't know. But I agree that Mance is the guy that everyone's going to be watching. I think he's got, the experience of having a team around him. He's got Clayton Young, who I wouldn't be totally shocked if they go, hey, let's work together for,
Yeah.
that's going to be familiar and comfortable while they're out there. He also has Jared Ward that he trains with, who's like, hey, I've been in this position. I know what it's like. I can tell you, what the experience is. And he, hopefully will be able to keep him calm out there. And I think Jared's a guy who's willing to use his experience to help others and isn't
Yeah.
like, no, I have this and I don't want to share it because I don't want to give my, strengths away.
Yeah.
So I think that that's going to be really helpful for Mance and Clayton. Um, I love what CJ is doing. I think he's just a wild man. I
Hmm.
think I think he can run 210 anytime he wants to. Like anywhere you name it, he'll show up and go run 210.
So
Um,
true.
if it's faster than that, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think he can also run 210 the hard way. Like he can go out and say like he can do the Magda. Like I'm just going to
You're right.
go out on 204 pace and run 210. You're either going with me or you're not, but this is my plan today and screw you.
Let's say you're
So
Scott Fauble and Connor Mance goes out at 204 pace and no one goes with him. You're 2 miles in and you can go squeeze that gap and get up with him. Are you going?
no, you're running for third or second and you're hoping he comes back, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait it out.
I'm just thinking like if you're If you're like, I mean, I think that Scott Faubles run 20, has he run 208? 208 high at Boston, maybe?
Yeah,
209 for sure. But yeah, I'm just like, if you think like, okay, I can't beat Connor Clayton, but I, I don't know. It's just like, that's like what we're going to see, right? People are they're going to train to be in the best shape they can be to handle the circumstances. But at the end of the day, nobody has any idea what's going to happen after that gun goes off.
it's
And who's
great.
going to be like just mad dog it and go for it. And who's going to sit back and calculate.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it. Is like we can talk about it forever and we'll continue to talk about it because it's so exciting, but we have no idea what's going to happen once that gun goes off.
I think there's some things that will be predictable. I'll counter you on that. I think
Okay.
that um, if I'm looking at the history of the trials, I think that really calculated plans, the Hansons have really calculated plans. Like this is what you're doing, and I don't care what happens in the front. We saw Brian do it. This us in 16, where it's like that's too rich. I think Zach Panning is the guy at the Hansons right now, and I don't know if they'll have somebody who is in the trials but maybe not ready to run the marathon yet. Like, hey, you're just gonna pace Zach. Like, is your game plan. So those guys, and Jake Riley, same thing in Atlanta. He wasn't on the Hansons at the time, but he was like familiar with the strategy and like comfortable in like, oh, if I run my race, maybe I can run my way onto the team. So if I'm like one of these guys who's on the bubble and I know I can compete with Zach, I'm sitting on him. And I'm like, oh, you got a guy who might be pacing you? Maybe we can run on the team. This is the spot for me. If it's the decision making of like someone going out crazy hard. Like,
Right.
this is a good spot to sit.
This is your 5th trials. Do you think this will be the deepest trials you've ever been in?
On the women's side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 2020 was pretty crazy. But I guess this is kind of funny though, because I wouldn't have looked at the team that made it in 2020 and been like, oh, we'll get a medal.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like, oh, this is like a fresh batch of athletes who are going to get experience. And then next year we'll be looking at medal, or next time around we'll be looking at medals.
Right.
So I was way off with that. But
Yeah. But
like
that's the thing. You never know, right?
yeah.
But yeah, on paper, that looked like an inexperienced team. I mean, Sally won a medal in the Olympics in the 10,000, but it had been a while. But yeah, like that looked like an inexperienced team. And then, yeah, Molly gets the bronze. No biggie.
there is a bit of like experience goes a long way, but it can also be paralyzing.
Yeah.
Like 'cause you can overthink it and you can try and like outsmart it. And it's sometimes ignorance is bliss in the marathon. You're like, I don't know, I'm just gonna fucking run as hard as I can.
I do actually sometimes think that my first marathon was my best marathon
You
because I
don't know what
didn't
you're in
have
for.
any expectation of like, when is it going to fall apart? When is it going to hurt? You know what I mean? I was just like running blind. I hadn't had time to over prep. There was only 8 weeks between, or 10 weeks from the Olympic final to New York, or was it? It was 8 weeks. Yeah, 8 weeks to the day. It was like I didn't have time to overthink it, you know? And
Yeah.
sometimes I think from every race there on out, I was trying to beat that build up or beat the mileage or, change this or change that. And sometimes I think like, wow, that might have been my best marathon because I just went for it without I wasn't able to overthink it because
Right.
I didn't have
You
time
even
to.
don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
All right. So crazy races. I think we just keep talking about this. I think we keep throwing names out. I would love to just dig into the athletes as not today, but further down the line. And like, I think the biggest thing is that we have to make people care, not about
Yeah.
just the races, but also about the people. And I think we have really cool people that are lining up. So my goal for the next couple weeks as we head into this thing is like, let's just make people care about the athletes and the races.
Is it
So many
uncomfortable for you that you are one of those athletes we're going to care about?
Nobody should care about me. Don't care
Everybody who
about me.
listens to this podcast cares about you.
Don't care about me. You can care about me, but we're not going to do that on the show because you already care, right?
Okay. I love
Um,
this idea. Yeah, I
yeah,
think there's like so many great storylines, so many people. I'm already thinking about cool things to say about all these different athletes and, be invested because they are.
yeah,
That's all they're thinking
exactly.
about right now, you know?
So some things to keep an eye on, I guess, and then we got to do a top five. I don't know if you're ready
Okay.
for this week's top
I'm
five, but
not at all.
I'm so
God.
ready.
You
Um,
are.
fucking notes, baby. So things to keep an eye on coming up. Tune-up races. I think Houston half and then Naples half are early January. They should be happening the 13th or 14th, whatever the weekend is there. So that'll be shortly after this episode drops. So keep an eye on that, and then we'll probably recap those as part of our updates.
Wow. Are you guys listening? This is like so official. Des is like looking at her notes and making sure she's covered what she wanted to cover.
It's just a
I feel
draw.
like an imposter.
It's actually just a game of tic-tac-toe.
My note says,
it's like, where's my next move? Lower left. All right, so we're gonna do this, and I'm gonna make a note in case we have to edit. But new sponsor.
Woo woo! Wait, I'm not ready for this either.
That's okay. We'll just do it, and then we'll see how it goes, so we can keep updating this and fine tuning it. But we do have a new sponsor for the pod. They're sponsoring the top 5. It's now the Olipop top 5. And
cheers!
It's a classic grape, which is good. I'm not a big soda fan, but I like these. Like,
yes,
they're not high in sugar. They have a lot of fiber, which is a weird thing to be excited about. But most of us are not getting enough fiber. You should look that up and learn about it. Add some fiber to your life. It's 32% of your daily value of fiber. So
I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes when I've had a bad eating day, I just drink an Olipop and I feel better about it.
That's amazing.
I'm dead serious. It's like got probiotics, all that stuff. I'm like, I'm crushing life.
And they're good.
Really good.
So they're bringing you the top 5. We've officially named it for the time being, Olipop top 5. I'm going to start with the first one and buy you some time to think of something. I wrote it in my notebook. My first one for the new year is a fresh start. These are very philosophical top 5s because it's a new year. I want to keep them broad. A fresh start. We can set new goals. We've turned the page. It's like it just recently snowed out there, and you get to lay down new tracks, and I think that's great.
Wow, that was such a great line. That was legitimately beautiful. Damn you. Okay, well, I'm gonna say for number 2 that it's our second year, and I'm proud of us coming in strong. 2 years now. How fun is this? So my top 5 is that, or one of them is that we're here. We're surviving year 2. It's exciting.
We're going to start thriving soon. Would you say this is episode 1, season 2? Or do you think it's just episode 20?
I like that. No, I would say like season 2, episode 1.
Did I do that right? Episode, yes.
You said episode 1, season 2, and I was like, where are you watching your shows?
They're backwards. Love that. Okay. I'm always cheersing for us. We'll swig a grape soda. Okay. My number 2 is...
No, it's number 3.
My number 3. I numbered mine in order, but so we're number 3. My number 3, naps. We're in a very heavy phase of training right now. And like, the nap is the move. It's just so great. Like, it's a perk of being a professional runner. I'm going to savor them for as long as I can. But one of the best naps is like the unplanned nap where you like are doing something.
Oh, yeah.
And you just wake up like 2 hours later. And I read this as a tweet one time. It was like, that's really great practice for dying. Like, you could have just died, right? Like, you just all of a sudden were doing a thing and then lost consciousness. But then you wake up and you're like, oh, I just took a nap. So it's like practice.
This is the weirdest end to a podcast we've ever had. You're like...
But naps. I'm
writing poetry with your words about snow, and now you're talking about naps. Okay, and dying. Okay, well, I didn't prep for this, so I'm just going to say, I'm going to toot our horn again. Olipop coming on board.
Sponsors.
How do you know you're succeeding? When Olipop comes on board. So just shout them out one more time. And I'm embarrassed I don't have one because Olipop actually sent us so many. Yeah. And we've just been pounding them. But we have a stocked fridge. So that's my other one. Sorry, I'm a little lazy today, but it's a good one. That's
okay. I'm going to pepper you with a question here. You're Minnesota. Is pop what you called them growing up?
Yeah, pop.
Funny, because from Minnesota, you think it's like right in there. The answer is right in there.
No, it's not. No, it's a pop.
Pop is
Can I have a pop? Mom, am I allowed to have a pop?
Soda
No,
is a drink.
no,
Pop's a sound.
no.
But we'll go with pop because it's also pop. I had a chemistry teacher once, and he was telling the story. He's like, it's coming back from Mexico, and I had you go through customs, and he was like, did you buy anything? Are you bringing anything back? He's like, oh, I just have some Coke. They're like, like, I'm sorry, what? Sorry. He's like, they're not being funny. He's like, I just have some Coke in the back, and they're like, secondary, like, don't mess around with us. He had Coca-Cola, but
Yeah.
in San Diego, you can call it Coke, you can call it soda, or you can call it pop.
No, it's just pop.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Answered the question. Well, it does step on my toes a little bit, because I was going to give one more shout out to the Olipop crew, but here's the twist on it.
Okay.
The classic cola flavor, we already drank through that. Actually, the cherry cola,
Okay.
we drank through like a 6-pack because they're really good. But if you make a shot of espresso, and you mix it with the cola, oh, so good. Espresso cola, espresso cherry cola. Try that. That's my
I'm
5.
gonna have to try that. I've never tried that.
Yeah,
Sounds
yeah.
like rocket fuel.
Boom. Yeah, I might have had one before this show.
I love it. Great.
Then I wrote my notes and I was like, let's go. All
Right.
right. What an episode. Thanks for chatting. Thanks for the bringing the hype, all the
Oh yeah.
energy. This is a vibe heading into the new year. More great stuff to come. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.